Here's a thought that should not let you sleep tonight. Did not tame the dog. The dog tamed itself. It's roughly 15,000 years ago. You're a hunter-gatherer. Your whole job is not dying. Zero Wi-Fi. Zero Netflix. 14 hours a day of survival with terrible benefits. You have absolutely zero interest in adopting a pet, and yet you accidentally made man's best friend. Not on purpose. Not with a plan. Nobody woke up wanting a sandal-destroying fluffball. It happened through messy, uncoordinated, almost absurd events nobody was controlling. And the wildest part? The dogs kind of domesticated themselves. Let that sink in. This is one of the most fascinating accidents in the entire history of life, because this story isn't just about animals. It's about trust, garbage dumps, and ancient biochemistry. Stay with me. This is gonna get weird. First, the world before dogs. Tens of thousands of years ago, your dog was just the gray wolf, Canis lupus. Large, dangerous, deeply uninterested in cuddles. Definitely not fetching your stick. Wolves were apex predators in tight family packs, with hunting plans that shame human art. They were fast, smart, and built for one purpose: surviving the wild on their own terms. Meanwhile, humans roamed Eurasia. Small nomadic bands, always moving, following the herds. Clever, adaptable, most flexible large mammal alive, but also, crucially, extremely messy. And that messiness, that was the entire foundation of everything that followed. Wherever humans go, they leave stuff behind. Bones, fish, scraps, food gone bad, and waste, it turns out, is a 5-star buffet if you're a hungry animal with low standards. Now the story begins. Most wolves wanted nothing to do with humans. Too risky. Wolves that approached humans tended to get killed. Staying away was the smart play. But within any group, individuals differ. Some bolder, some curious, some just a bit more chill. Those outliers, the ones less likely to panic at a human, started doing something remarkable. They started hanging around the camp edges, not invited. The garbage was just genuinely excellent. A calmer stress response meant they could tolerate proximity and reach food other wolves couldn't. This is already an accident. Nobody decided anything. The brave, weird wolves just showed up. Just like that, the whole trajectory of life on Earth quietly shifted. Here's where evolution enters the chat. Doing what it always does, not asking permission. More reliable calories meant better bodies. Better bodies meant more surviving pups. Each generation carried that same calm, human-tolerant personality a little stronger. Meanwhile, wolves that bolted whenever a human stayed. Slowly, without drama, a split was happening. Two paths from one animal. Nobody had a plan. Nobody selected for anything. Natural selection just rewarded whatever worked. This drift toward tolerance probably ran for thousands of years before any real dog existed. Slow, invisible, driven entirely by one fact. Ancient humans were slobs, and some wolves were chill. Then something shifted. These proto-dogs started being actively, genuinely useful. They alerted the camp to predators. They followed hunts and tracked wounded prey. They earned their keep without ever signing up for the job. They chased off rival scavengers and cleaned up scraps, quietly cutting disease nobody yet understood. They became a living alarm system, a perimeter of nervous energy warning of threats before they got close. Humans being opportune noticed. Instead of chasing these canines away, some groups started tolerating them more. Maybe someone picked up a wolf puppy and discovered it was warm and soft, that maybe this wasn't entirely terrible. And just like that, with no contract and no plan, the world's first friendship was forming. Started over a trash pile. There's always variation in any wolf pack. Some bolder, some shyer, some just a little more chill than the rest. The outliers, the statistically weird ones who didn't panic when a human wandered within 50 m, started doing something remarkable. They started lingering at the edge of human camps. Not invited, not planned. The garbage was just genuinely excellent. A calmer stress response meant they could tolerate the closeness, and tolerating it unlocked food no other wolf could reach. Nobody decided anything. The slightly brave, slightly weird wolves just showed up, and the whole trajectory of life on Earth quietly shifted. This is where evolution and that do what it always does, not asking permission, not explaining itself. Those tolerant wolves got more food for far less effort, eating leftovers. Successful hunters on the continent. More reliable calories, better body, better condition meant more pups. More pups meant more calm, human-tolerant wolves next generation. Meanwhile, the wolves that bolted every time a human stayed wild never mixed in. Gene pools were splitting. Every generation, these stressed wolves did slightly better. Every generation, calm temperament spread a little wider. No plan. No one selecting for anything. Just natural selection rewarding whatever worked. Silent, patient, relentless. This drift toward human tolerance likely ran for thousands of years before anything we call a dog existed. Slow, visible, driven entirely by one fact. Ancient humans were slobs. Some wolves were chill. That's the whole engine. Then at some point, something something shifted. These proto-dogs started being genuinely useful, and humans naturally noticed. They alerted the camp when predators crept close. A living alarm system, a perimeter of nervous energy warning of danger. They trailed hunting parties and tracked wounded prey. They chased off rival scavengers. Quietly, they were earning their keep. So instead of chasing these canines away, some groups tolerated them more, tossing bones on purpose, letting the puppies creep closer. Maybe one day someone picked up a wolf pup, found it warm and soft, and thought maybe this isn't so terrible after. And just like that, no contract, no plan, no one understanding any of it. Partnership was quietly forming. Two species orbiting each other, pulling slowly closer through pure mutual benefit. The world's first friendship, and it started over a trash pile. If this is already blowing your mind, hang on, because the next part comes from a Cold War lab and breaks everyone's brain. Fast forward to 1959, Soviet Union. A geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev begins an experiment so strange it borders on science fiction. He worked partly in secret. Genetics had been politically suppressed in the USSR. His subjects completely wild silver foxes. Fearful, aggressive, zero interest in being touched. And Belyaev started breeding them. But here's the critical part. He selected for exactly one thing, tameness. Not size, not coat, not looks. Only the calmest foxes got to reproduce. The rule was brutally simple. Be calm near humans, or your bloodline ends here. Pure behavior, nothing else mattered. By generation 6, foxes approached humans on their own. By generation 10, they actively sought human contact. By generation 20, his foxes were behaviorally indistinguishable from dogs. They wagged, whimpered when alone, licked hands, knew their own names. They even sought out human eye contact and held it. Something wild foxes simply never do. But that's not even the wildest part. Nobody told the foxes' bodies to change. He selected only behavior, but their bodies changed anyway. Floppy ears appeared. Patchy spotted coats emerged. Tails curled upward. Snout shortened. The foxes started looking a lot like dogs. Scientists call this domestication syndrome, a whole bundle of physical and hormonal changes that ride along with selecting for tameness. Dial down the stress response. Cortisol, serotonin, developmental timing, and a whole cascade of other changes tags along for the ride. The implication is stunning. When ancient wolves self-selected for life near humans, their entire developmental biology was quietly shifting too. The floppy ears, the puppy eyes, the short muzzles, all the things that make dogs irresistibly cute were probably just side effects. Nobody designed the puppy face. It simply happened, genetically wired to the calm personality being selected. Dogs got cute entirely by accident, and we fell for it entirely by design, evolution's design, not ours. Sit with that one for a moment. So now we have proto-dogs, semi-tame, garbage-eating, occasionally useful. But then the story takes a turn into pure science fiction. At some point, dogs didn't just tolerate us. They started to understand us, and that makes them unlike anything else on Earth. Study after study shows dogs read human social cues better than any animal alive, better even than chimps, our closest relatives. Here's the kicker. Point at something, and a chimp looks at your hand. A dog looks where you're pointing. That gap is enormous. Following the finger requires a model of another mind. Understanding the gesture points to something out there. Dogs have that. Chimps mostly don't. Belyaev's rule was brutally simple. Only the calmest foxes, the ones least afraid of a human hand, were ever allowed to breed. No selecting for looks, no selecting for size or color. One single trait mattered, and one only. Be calm near humans, or your bloodline ends here. And the change came fast. By generation 6, foxes were voluntarily approaching the people who'd once terrified them. By generation 10, they sought human contact. By generation 20, they were wagging tails, whimpering when alone, licking hands, basically dogs in fox costumes. They even held eye contact with humans, something wild foxes simply do not do. Remarkable. But here comes the part that broke everyone's brain. Nobody told the foxes' bodies to change, but the bodies changed anyway. Floppy, patchy spotted, tails curled up, snout shortened. Foxes started looking, weirdly, a whole lot like dogs. Scientists call this domestication syndrome, a whole bundle of physical and hormonal changes that ride along, uninvited, whenever you select for tameness, lower cortisol, shifted serotonin, the whole stress response dialed down, a cascade of cute side effects tumbles along for the ride. So when ancient wolves self-selected for life near humans, they weren't just getting friendlier. Their entire developmental biology was quietly shifting. The floppy ears, puppy eyes, the shorter muzzles, every irresistible feature of a modern dog probably emerged as accidental byproducts of being calm. Nobody designed the puppy face, it just happened genetically chained to the personality being selected. Dogs evolved to be cute entirely by accident, and we fell for it entirely by design, evolution's design, not ours. If this is bending your brain, brain, the next part gets even stranger, because these proto-dogs didn't just learn to tolerate humans. At some point, slowly, they learned to actually understand. Study after study shows domestic dogs have social skills no other animal can match. Not even chimpanzees, our closest genetic relative. Dogs follow your pointing finger. They track your gaze. They read your face for happy or angry, and they ask you for help when they're stuck. Point at something, and a chimp looks at your hand. A dog looks where you're pointing. Tiny difference, except it isn't tiny at all. Looking where the finger points requires a model of another mind. Dogs have that, brilliant chimps largely don't. How did this happen? The same way everything else in this story did. Slowly, accidentally, through the relentless logic of selection grinding away across thousands of generations. Dogs that read human signals got fed more, protected more, integrated more. The ones who missed the cues were quietly left behind generation after generation. The result is an animal with a brain tuned with extraordinary precision to understanding one specific other species, not nature in general. Us specifically. Your dog hasn't just lived alongside humans for 15,000 years. Your brain has been sculpted across those millennia specifically to understand the way they read your tone, sense your sadness before you've shown it. That's not magic. 15,000 years of selection producing an expert on human beings. For years, the science seemed tidy. Dogs were domesticated once in one place. From one wolf population, maybe East Asia, maybe the Middle East. Clean origin story. Then genetic sequencing arrived, blew the clean story into ancient DNA at different places. Studies flatly. Like colleagues started firing pointed rebuttals in journals. Science is basically a fist fight. And out of the brawl came wild. What if domestication happened not once, but twice in Europe or the Middle East? From different wolves, two lineages that later mixed as humans migrated. If true, separate groups of humans, thousands of miles apart and unaware of each other, all stumbled into the exact same process. Traps, the brave wolves, the slow partnership. It happened more than once by pure coincidence because the conditions were right wherever humans and wolves shared a landscape. Maybe the dogs were always coming regardless. Given humans and wolves in the same place long enough, dogs were basically inevitable. Maybe we never really had a choice. Now for something almost uncomfortably intimate. When humans and dogs hold prolonged eye contact, rigorous science shows both of them get a spike of oxytocin, the same hormone that floods a new parent gazing at their baby, the same chemistry of romantic bonding, the exact neurochemical signature of deep attachment in both species at once. This doesn't happen with wolves, not with chimps, not with any other domestic animal. As far as we know, it is specific to the human-dog bond alone. So when you look into your dog's eyes and feel something words can't quite hold, your body is responding to it exactly the way it responds to the people you most. The accident didn't just produce it produced something we are, biochemically built to love. And then humans did what we always do with a good thing. We immediately overcomplicate. As farming spread, people began breeding dogs on herding, hunting, guarding, sledding, retrieving, and eventually pure companionship. The result makes biologists dizzy. One single species with a size range found in no other mammal. A Chihuahua weighs about 2 kilograms, English Mastiff over 9. Same species, same animal. You could fit the Chihuahua in the Mastiff's food bowl with room to spare. No other mammal pulls this off, not even close. Elephants don't come in pocket edition. Lions aren't sold in toy and standard sizes. Dogs do this because humans pushed selection in every direction. A border collie can learn over 1,000 words and herd with eerie precision. A greyhound hits 70 kilometers per h, then becomes a living blanket the moment it lies down. St. Bernard once hauled over 1,000 kilograms. Basset hound will stare at a wall with the serene acceptance of someone who's with the universe. Same species, different planets, apparently. All of it sculpted from one slightly braver wolf that once decided the garbage smelled worth the risk. Same hormone that floods a new parent cradling their newborn. Same chemical loop behind romantic pair bonding. Triggered somehow by your dog simply holding your... This loop happens with no wolf, no chimp, no other tamed animal. As far as science knows, it belongs to dogs and humans alone. Private channel. So when you look into your dog's eyes and feel something words can't hold, that feeling is real. Your body responds to your dog like it responds to the people it loves most. Once that bond locked in, humans did what humans always do with a good thing. They immediately overcomplicated it, breeding dogs on purpose for every job imaginable. Herders, hunters, guardians, sled pullers, bird flushers, water retrievers, and eventually dogs bred for nothing but company. Thousands of years of pressure pushed in every direction. The result makes biologists uneasy. One species stretched into a size range found in no other mammal on the planet. A living, walking experiment in extreme. A Chihuahua weighs about 2 kilograms. An English Mastiff tops 90. Same species, same animal. You could fit one in in the other's food bowl with room to spare. No other mammal does this. Elephants have no pocketed. Lions don't come in toy and standard. Only dogs, because humans pushed selection every direction for millennia. Border Collie can learn over 1,000 words and herd with eerie precision. Greyhound hits 70 kilometers per 8 and becomes a living blood. Same species, different planets. Step back and take in the whole picture. The dog is, by almost any measure, humanity's single most consequential animal relation, woven through every era we've ever lived. Dogs have gone to war with us, sniffed out cancers that doctors missed, guided the blind, warned of seizures, and dug survivors from earthquake rubble across every great civilization. Rigorous studies show companion dogs measurably lift human health, lower cortisol, lower blood pressure, less loneliness and depression. Dogs aren't just nice, they genuinely change us. The greatest cross-species partnership in the history of life. An alliance that helped shape civilization, and it all began because nobody cleaned up after them. Scraps. A few brave outlier wolves. Time. Natural selection running its quiet algorithm. Nobody in charge, nobody with a plan. Just evolution finding the path that worked. This is either the most humbling or the most inspiring fact in all of natural. The greatest accident produced the greatest friendship. Chaos. Left long enough, looked like design. So here's what you're really looking at next time you look at your dog. 15,000 years of accumulated accident. Great-grandchild of a wolf that bet on garbage and won. You're looking at an animal whose cute face and soft ears and melting eyes are the leftover side effects of a personality nobody ever planned to select for. You're looking at something shaped across hundreds of generations to read you. Your dog knows your moods before you do, optimized over more lifetime than you count to good at you. And when you look at each other, you both release the bonding hormone, parental love. Honestly, as a species, we didn't deserve this. I mean that sincerely. We made this bond by being messy, then opportunistic, then slowly choosing to keep these animals close for thousands of years without ever really understanding. And what we got back is an animal that by every biological measure loves us, not because it was designed to, but because the wolves good at loving humans flourished. We love to call this a triumph of human cleverness. We tamed the wild. The honest version is stranger. Two species simply stumbled toward each other through hunger, luck, and time. It's a story about how the best relationships sometimes start not with intention, but with two parties ending up in the same place over and over until proximity becomes something else. Roughly 15,000 years ago, a messy hunter-gatherer with zero interest in a pet accidentally made man best. An accident that worked out, which really is the story of most things worth having.